We haven't done this before, listeners, but Greg and I are going to take a look back over 2024 and just talk about the episodes in each genre that we thought were the best. If you're a Shiver Show listener, you know that our main genres are crime, horror, and science fiction. But we have added a new category, haven't we, Greg?
We have indeed. And I'm in suspense. What's it called, Mary?
It's called suspense,
No.
surprisingly.
Excellent. Whoa. Excellent. Phew, thank God
And
for that.
um, and the idea with that is there are some that really just don't fall into the neat three categories of crime, horror, and science fiction, which we discovered as we went through 2024. So we'll talk about those as well.
Indeed. Now, there's no doubt over the past 12 months, we've courageously prized open the coffin lid of vintage radio plays and discovered some great drama. There were some
Absolutely.
fabulous ones. There were some entertaining ones. But I've chosen four, one from each of those categories you've just mentioned.
All right. Well, how about if we just start off? Do you want to start off with crime?
Well, I'm glad you asked because that alphabetically that fits perfectly. So I'm a sucker for any story featuring a private eye in a trench coat and a fedora hat. And that's why I've chosen, for one of some of the reasons, the Maltese Falcon as my top rating crime radio play that we've featured on the Shiver Show this year. I'm a long-time fan of the American writer Dashiell Hammett, and he wrote the Maltese Falcon in 1930. So you can imagine this is nearly 95 years ago. So, and I know you're also a Hammett fan.
Absolutely. And the fashion, he has set a fashion standard that is timeless.
And he's
The
oh,
trench coat, the fedora.
excellent. And with that sort of world-weary private eye.
Yeah.
So the movie of the same name, which, the Maltese Falcon, came out in 1941, and it starred Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet, and Peter Lorre. And they graciously gave up their fees and their time to do the radio adaptation, which we've listened to on the Shiver Show. And it's a knockout, I tell you.
It's a knockout and also done before a live audience. So it has a few coughs in there, just so that you
Yes.
know that it's a real situation. So wonderful. And I try to imagine what it would be like to call up Humphrey Bogart and ask him to do a production like that because he sounds like he was a very grumpy person in
Well,
real life.
in real life, yes.
Yeah.
His co-star Mary Astor described him as angry with the world. She said when he was drunk, he was bitter, smilingly sarcastic, and thoroughly unpleasant, which, coincidentally, are all the characteristics of the main character in the Maltese Falcon, Sam Spade.
Yes.
And just for anyone who hasn't followed the Maltese Falcon, the book, seen the book, or seen the movie, or listened to our play, the plot in brief is the San Francisco private detective Sam Spade is hired by a gorgeous liar for a case that involves him tackling exotic criminals who are on a quest for a priceless statuette, the Maltese Falcon.
Absolutely. And in the radio play, we never really find out too much about the Maltese Falcon, but that's okay because it's in a tight 30-minute episode, so
It
it's
is. So there's
star-studded
the
and tight.
yeah, there's the challenge for the poor scriptwriter for the radio. He's got to take, say a 90-minute movie, as they've done with other movies such as Casablanca, and reduce them down to what 27 and a half minutes. So Mary, which one did you choose for crime?
So for me, in the crime genre, it's the Georgia Gray murder case from the
Hmm.
Broadway Is My Beat series. I absolutely love this on every level. So I love the sound, the music, the acting. The story is probably the one aspect of it that I didn't think was amazing because it was just a very linear procedural police plot,
Hmm.
investigation plot. But that is the only aspect about it that isn't just absolutely superb. And it is this is where we first, or I first met David Light, the sound engineer, who is on many, many other productions. And you just see the quality of the sound just, rise whenever David Light is involved in the production. So he's my Foley god, Greg.
He is. Well, not only that, it was a knockout. I've got to say that that particular production, all those sound effects, it really recreated New York for me, and he really captured those 1940s, 1950s New York sounds, those street sounds.
Yeah, and the beautiful music, just fantastic. So yeah, so I think those are two really good choices of, but in the crime genre, Maltese Falcon and the Georgia Gray murder case. Incidentally, I should actually mention the People's Choice
Let's
for the
just
crime category. The crime
Yeah.
category was Maltese Falcon also. So how about horror? What did you choose for horror, Greg?
Well, in the horror genre, I chose Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. Now, when the radio host E.G. Marshall, at the beginning, he intones, "Never will you have experienced such revulsion." And I thought, oh, really? But he was right. This is one creepy radio program. It's got all the elements that want you when you go to bed at night and have to leave the lights on. In my case, hide under the blankets after listening to this show.
But
But no, how, however, in regards to the show, we've got the narrator, Gabriel Mannering, and he pops in to see his old pal Roderick Usher, who lives in a decaying family mansion, to discover that the house is not the only thing that's falling apart. There's, there's a possibly dead, possibly not quite dead sister who's roaming around the local graveyard. This has got a creep factor of 10 out of 10.
yeah.
And also, we have Roderick Usher. He's one of those psychotic characters who are continually screaming, "I'm not mad, I tell you, I'm not mad," which is so reassuring, I would have thought.
But it is a fabulous production. Edgar Allan Poe, somewhat adapted for radio.
As we
Not
we
only
discussed back when we first had it, that the servant, the butler, the valet, the manservant, is named Cato, which is the same name as the servant in the Pink Panther movies. When Inspector Clouseau had that loyal and feisty manservant with the same name. Now, is that a coincidence? I think not.
No, a very unusual name. Wouldn't it be interesting, funny, and entertaining if in the fall of the house of Usher, you actually had the manservant Cato trained to attack the
Yeah.
man of the house whenever he came in because he wanted to keep a sharp edge. Do
Well,
you remember that about the Pink
I
Panther?
do, yes. But you certainly wouldn't be attacking the sister Madeline, who wanders around the gravestones with and her sister's and the sister's bedroom, which reeks of rotting flesh. Lovely,
Just lovely.
and Mannering says, "I've never seen such a ruin. The room reeked of despondency." You wouldn't want him writing your real estate ads.
Yeah, there are air freshener candles for that, by the way.
Well, I should hope so. I think
Yeah.
they've they've let the team down.
Well, in that category, in the genre of horror, my choice was a Ghost Hunt.
Oh yes,
Yeah, so I loved
yes.
this one very much. Once again, this is a David Light production, so the sound was wonderful in this, the sound effects. Although we do have David Light actually being Jeff the dog in this.
That's, there's, there's, there's something to go on your IMDb page as part of your
That's right.
CV. Yes,
Yeah, little Jack Russell. We also, I thought the acting was amazing, but what I really loved about this was it kind of was unexpected on a couple of levels. One, it takes place in this beautiful beachside Malibu house. So we've got a haunted house that's a beautiful beachside house instead of some crumbly house. But also the haunting is internal, it's mental, it's not actually anything paranormal that's going on. And I just loved the way the actor conveyed that. So that was my pick for horror.
Excellent choice.
And
Excellent
say,
choice.
yeah, people's choice for the horror genre was The Fall of the House of Usher. So,
Excellent.
yeah. So, most popular by quite a margin. I do think it had something to do with the fact that the Netflix series for the series of the same name came out in the same month. So it just happened to be that we were not that
Nice.
our marketing is on the same scale as Netflix.
We've had
Oh,
some knockout sci-fi radio plays this year on the Shiver Show, and I've chosen The Day the Earth Stood Still as my favorite one. It was outstanding for me in so many ways, and as a cheery thought to end the year, let me take you to the underlying theme of this 1953 sci-fi story. Uh, it's all about the futility of hoping for peace on Earth. Frankly, it's a waste of time.
I know it is. Forget about peace on Earth. And also, I think to some extent the futility of space exploration, because it seems like if an alien arrives, goes to the effort of actually coming here to meet us, we will try and kill them immediately.
Yes.
No questions asked. Yeah.
But the Earthlings do it in a two-faced way as well, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Uh, and we've got the space traveler Klaatu, who arrives on this planet with the goal of getting all the nations to have a group hug and play nice. So that's his plan. Doesn't go entirely to plan, indeed. But just like the 1951 film of the same name, Klaatu gives humanity the choice: peace or death. either,
And what
either.
do the humans choose?
Well, this is going to shock our listeners. So, well, I've got to say, on Klaatu's, on his behalf, he's not exactly sugarcoating the message.
Yeah, yeah.
Either you get your act together on Earth, or we aliens are going to blow you up.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the key reasons why I liked it is Michael Rennie, he's an English actor, and he does an impeccable performance
Mm.
as Klaatu. Originally, they were going to cast Spencer Tracy as the alien, but the producers were worried that the American audiences just wouldn't believe that Spencer Tracy was from outer space. So, and who better to choose than an Englishman? So, and in the movie they deck him out in this sort of silver jumpsuit with a deep sea diver type helmet. So he looks the part.
Mm. He looks fabulous in that jumpsuit, I've got to say. I'm not sure Spencer Tracy could have carried it off quite as well.
No, not quite as well.
Mm-mm. So, what's the Greg, just coming back to the story itself and the original story, there's a twist in this in that well, I wouldn't call it a twist in the radio play because it's fairly straightforward. We fail, humans
Hmm.
fail, but there
Humans
is a
fail.
twist in the original story. Do you want to talk about what that is?
Well, in the original story, we have Klaatu, the alien, and what you would assume is his sidekick, a giant robot called Gort. Uh, and in the original story, what you discover is that Gort is actually in charge, and he sends Klaatu out as the ambassador or the emissary to try and convince Earthlings to be good boys and girls.
Well, my pick for the best sci-fi of the year is War of the Worlds.
Ah, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Good choice. Good
Yeah, so
choice.
War of the Worlds, it was tough for me because there were several that I loved, including The Day the Earth Stood Still. Fabulous. Also really liked Zero Hour. Um,
Oh, yes, yeah.
but War of the Worlds, I had to choose it because I believe it's such an influential radio play. And it had such a social impact, although, there's disagreement about how big that impact was, but many people thought it was real. So there were a lot of very panic-stricken people when it came to air because they didn't realize that it was just a radio play. So we've got that. We've got it's based on the H.G. Wells story. And I think they did a very good job of conveying it in a very realistic way. Switching back and forth between, various radio stations and emergency, news teams on the ground and what was it called? The Ricardo, the
The
orchestra that,
band,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, that was
Every time he would struck up and now across to the live to the band, and just as he began playing, something else would happen, and they have to
yeah,
go
yeah.
back to the news crews who are out on the ground.
Yeah, so just really an innovative use of editing and scene changing, very dynamic. So I love that very much. The sound is where I maybe gave it, yeah, could have been improved because there was an opportunity here to show some really amazing sound when the alien invasion's actually taking place, and they chose instead to focus more on the narrator talking about what was happening. So there were not as many sound effects of, the ray gun or, destruction of infrastructure and people running and screaming. There was a little bit of it, but there could have been more, I think. Um,
Well, there's no doubt that Orson Welles was masterful. Well, first of all, he came up with the idea of putting this story to air, and the way he did it, the way he structured it, his attention to detail, his understanding of how to build drama, because quite a slow start, and then it builds up that these aliens are coming, and these are not nice creatures. They're basically here to take over the earth, and they decide, well, we may as well start with New York,
that's
which
right.
is a good choice, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you have a choice between Klaatu and Gort versus these people from Mars,
uh,
I would go Klaatu and Gort every time.
no, they're a nasty piece of work.
Say, yeah, this
Uh,
for me is one of the great radio plays of all time. And
Yeah, that's the sort of thing. It's Orson Welles at his peak in terms of radio. Obviously, he went on to do movies, but at the same time, uh, he was a master storyteller.
absolutely. And this won the People's Choice as well. So amongst listeners, War of the Worlds was the most popular sci-fi. So
Excellent. They've
yeah.
got good final one. Yes,
It's
the final category.
we called this category suspense, um, because it doesn't fall into the traditional categories of crime, horror, or science fiction, although yeah, so it kind of takes place in the real world. Should I maybe just quickly talk about the ones that fell into that category?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
so surprisingly, at the end of the year, we discovered there were a few of these. There were four, in fact. And I might have missed a few, Greg. So if I've missed some, just let me know.
Well,
So Linegan versus the Ants was one of
mm-hmm.
them.
Yep.
The Most Dangerous Game,
Mm.
The Sleeping Draft, and Three Skeleton Key were the three that four that I thought fell into this category. Did I miss any?
Well, I picked one that could be, of if you want to be very literal, it could be in the crime genre, but realistically, it was more about suspense because it's about the characters, not so much about the crime that they will commit partway through the story without giving too much away. But I chose The Postman Always Rings Twice
Ah,
because it's got those two main characters, and there's enough sexual electricity between them to power a small town. Let me tell you, we've got the plot involves a drifter who's hired to work at a roadside diner, and then he has an affair with the owner's gorgeous wife, and then with her he plans to kill the owner to get the owner's assets. So we kick off at the opening scenes of the radio play and indeed of the movie the same name, with the drifter seeing a sign outside the diner which says "Man Wanted," and let's just say man wanted in more ways than one.
And man delivered too.
Well, delivered to so the stars are Lana Turner and John Garfield,
Yeah,
and they were in the movie and they're in the radio play.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Lana Turner is so sexy, I could feel my socks heating up as I listened to the play.
Well, there you go. So now I would argue that that is probably I would have put that in the crime genre because a
Well,
crime is
yes,
committed and a crime is
quite
plotted.
true. Well, yes, true
But
enough.
I accept a suspense category.
And
So
just
what?
wanted to say just one final thing about this. So it's from the book James M. Cain's novel, which was published in 1934, and this was a novel because it was so sexy, it had so much violence, it was banned in, can you believe this, Canada, of all places.
And
It's
Boston.
banned in, oh, and Boston, true,
Yeah,
yes, but
yeah.
those Canadians, oh, they're very harsh.
Well, amongst the ones that our wonderful lineup of suspense
Yeah.
radio plays, I had to pick Three Skeleton Key, and I like well, I
Oh,
realized I
fabulous.
loved all of these suspense ones. They were really really great. Um, pardon me. So. Loved Lanigan versus the Ants, loved The Most Dangerous Game, and The Sleeping Draft also, and also because it was an Australian story to some extent.
Mm.
But Three Skeleton Key gets my vote because Vincent Price, that's all I have to say there. Vincent Price was the narrator and also an actor in this. The sound was pretty good. The rats, the sound of the rats could have been better and was high, it's a bit repetitive. So as a sound person, I thought they could have done a little bit more to change the pitch of those rats. But I thought that the story itself was wonderful and really intriguing to think of, a mischief of rats swimming to shore, pardon me, swimming to shore and attacking a lighthouse and trying to get in.
Uh, no, I did like Three Skeleton Key. That idea that there are the lighthouse keepers are trapped inside this this wild rocky shoreline, and the rats are coming for them, and the rats are going to be on the windows and everywhere.
And they're eating
Just
the wood frame of the window, so they're going to get in eventually.
they're
And
going to get in.
and they've got,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that that
It's a terrible thing. But
that is.
within the realm of possibility, and therefore more of a suspense than can't be. You can't call it sci-fi. You
No,
can
definitely
say
not.
it,
No,
it has horror elements because, of
it
course, we're
does.
horrified. But it really,
Yeah.
because it kind of sits in the real world, yeah, I'd
Mm.
call that one a suspense.
A good choice. A good choice, Mary.
So we had a great year. We've had
We have
something like 45 episodes of The Shiver Show.
no,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And what we're still speaking to each other. No,
I'm
I agree. It's been a fabulous year, and you can hear us on Radio KPPQ Ventura, California, which, incidentally, if I do,
There's you
oh,
just
there we
disappeared there
go.
for a second. Was
I
that a bit
do,
of magic?
yes. That's right. That's part of the sci-fi elements that we have, and also on numerous podcast sites and on YouTube, where the listeners with I would recommend you didn't have a heavy breakfast before watching me on this show, but they can see us discussing these vintage radio plays.
And it is a treat to see us in the flesh, of
Well,
course,
well, fleshish, well, certainly fleshy
in
in
the
my
fleshy.
in my case. So I'm looking forward to another year of the Shiver Show, another season, and our aim is to be entertaining and informative, and I hope our listeners will join us once again.
Yes, we want to thank you for listening and thank you for hanging in there. And we had a little bit of a gap in the middle of the year where I went off to a hospital in Greece. So we didn't have
Yeah,
episodes
so I
for
mean,
6 weeks.
Yeah, your idea of a holiday. I don't know. A hospital in Greece.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll do anything to get
So
attention, Greg.
well, it was certainly an imaginative way. Most people go to an island. You decide, no, no,
Greek
I've got to do a
hospital in
main.
Tripoli, Greece.
Travel is, uh, indeed.
Put me on an IV drip.
What a, pardon me. Sorry. I should be, um, I should
You
look
put your
sadder.
sad face on.
Yeah, I should look sadder. I'm sorry.
Sad, concerned face, please.
Yes, I do
Let's see it.
apologize,
Let's
Mary.
see it. Sad, concerned
Oh, sorry.
face.
Oh, poor Mary. Oh,
Very good.
no.
Very good.
Um,
Good
Nevertheless,
night, Greg.
good, good night and Happy New Year.
Yes, good night. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Season's
indeed.
greetings.
Yes, that's right. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Most wonderful time of the year for some.